company. Hello, my name is Theodore, and I am a Mandalorian. I belong to a faction called Children of the Watch, and I was raised to honor the creed. Recently, I decided to learn how to create incredible shots in 3D environments of my own making. This channel will document my journey, so tag along on this great adventure and let's learn together. First thing I did was go online and look for the best 3D softwares. I saw that there was one called Blender, a free open source 3D software. I decided to install it because I love the word free. Credits are hard to find these days. Then I did what we all do when we want to learn something in 2026, which is go online and start looking for tutorials. I found a very famous one called the Donut tutorial. However, it is a 4-hour long tutorial, but I did it over a few days in my free time. Honestly, I found this tutorial excellent to get familiar with the software. You know, learn the basic functions, how to navigate in it. Plus, the teacher was really good. It was cool because it covered many things, from modeling to texturing to lighting and setting the scene. Since I really liked that tutorial, I decided to check out another one and ended up making a little car and getting familiar with more things like the virtual camera. For example, here I made it follow a path to get a cool shot of the car. I started rendering more shots of my projects and experimenting with different parameters such as the speed of the camera, the tracking of objects, the depth of field, and more. Now, with all I had learned in this entire month or so, I wanted to create something of my own without being limited to what the experts create in their tutorials. Okay, let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do in Blender, while making sure the ANT landscape add-on is enabled, is I will create a landscape and scale it to my liking. Then I will apply a texture directly in Blender using the polygon add-on, which is an add-on I had to install in order to complete the donut tutorial, but it's free to install and there's a few free textures in there. Then I will tweak the properties a bit until I get something that looks good. After that, I will import an HDRI, high dynamic range image, which is a special image file containing light and color data. It will act as a realistic light source and background for my scene. I picked this one with a nice sunset. I found it for free on an amazing website called polyhaven.com. Okay, so what I'm gonna do to get some footprints is create a new plane and link the materials with the landscape I created earlier so we have the same texture on both. Then I will go on a website called Sketchfab where there's a bunch of 3D models to download, and I will download my first model under the GLB format. The reason I picked this format is because the textures will automatically be included. However, it does have limitations, you'll see. So I picked this one, which is a worker. Looks like he's got big boots to create my footprints. Now I need to make him walk. To do that, I will go to a free website called Mixamo. But there's just one problem. In order to upload my character on this website, it needs to be under the FBX format. So what I'm gonna do is simply re-export my model under the FBX format in Blender. Now I can put it in Mixamo with the textures included. But to be clear, this little hack is really not the way to go because it doesn't always work. That was just me trying to get my first 3D model with its textures imported in Blender. But anyway, now in Mixamo, I will pick this simple walking animation. Then in Blender, I will use a reference model to scale this man to a realistic human size and place him on the plane. Then to make those footprints, I will select the model, go to the Physics tab, add a dynamic paint, and change from canvas to brush. Then I'll select the plane, add a bunch of subdivisions in edit mode, then I'll add a dynamic paint to the plane and add a canvas. I will also set the surface type to displace and make sure the plane covers the feet a bit. Then with the plane selected, add a subdivision modifier and put it before the dynamic paint. After, we could add another subdivision surface modifier after the dynamic paint one. And very important, hit shade smooth on the plane. Then you can bake the animation under cache to make it easier on your computer. And there we go, we got footprints on the plane. Then I'm gonna place the plane near the landscape and animate a cool shot of my liking with the virtual camera. In that shot, I also took my worker model and animated it out of frame to create a shadow, which I think was another cool and subtle way of suggesting a presence on that planet. Then I added lights to make the shot look better and made them match the color of the HDRI. Okay, now for the second shot, I placed the camera at a nice wide angle where we could see the sunset. Then I went back on Sketchfab to pick a 3D model that looks like me. This one will be perfect. Now, this model was available for download as a GLB file, but I knew I'd put it in Mixamo later to get a walking animation. So I decided to download it as an FBX file and figure out how to link the textures later in Blender. Because when you download a model as an FBX, it comes with two files, the model itself and the textures as images. For example, this is the texture of the metallic property of the helmet. Anyways, I put it in Mixamo, got a walking animation and imported the model in Blender. Then I watched a bunch of tutorials and even asked AI for some more detailed explanation about how to get the textures of an FBX model in Blender. After a whole day or so of learning about that, I finally kind of understood how it was done. So basically, when you go on the Material tab, you have a list of every part of the body or the mesh, and then when you click on these different parts, you have access to all the properties. The main ones are the base color, the metallic property, the roughness, and the normal map. There might be less or more depending on the model you're working with. Then you can simply import each corresponding image to their respective properties. You can also do it with nodes in the shading tab, which looks more intimidating as a beginner, but when you understand the basics, it's more visual. For example, let's take the armor part of this Mandalorian model. Everything starts from this principled BSDF rectangle, where you can see all the properties I was talking about earlier. And those are the respective image texture files of the linked properties. Now, for image textures like these, you can either link the properties to color or alpha, depending on what looks good. Honestly, as a beginner, just go with your eyes. For some parts of the body, it worked better when it was linked to alpha, and sometimes it worked better when it was linked to color. I don't fully understand that yet. If you do, please feel free to explain in the comments. Oh yeah, and make sure the color space is set to non-color for every property, except the base color, where it should be set to sRGB. And for the normal property, you just need to add a little normal map node in between. So after importing all the image texture files, this is what my Mandalorian friend looked like. Then I had to loop my walking animation because my Mixamo animation was not long enough. So to do that, I checked a bunch of tutorials and nothing really worked. By the way, the armature is right here. It contains the animation data and it is linked to the character's mesh. Then I found the easiest way to loop my animation. It's to go right here on the non-linear animation tab, which is literally like a timeline for animations. So I went right here on the action clip tab and made my walking animation repeat. Nice. Then, to make the Mandalorian walk forward, I parented his armature to an empty and simply animated this empty forward at a realistic speed. And now it looks perfect in the shot. Look at him. I wish I could be like him. Hopefully one day I'll be as cool as this guy. I also animated a light to get a cool reflection on the helmet while the character is walking. Okay, so now it's time for the third shot. What I'm gonna do for this shot is a little different. So basically, I will film some shots near my window to get a nice natural lighting on my helmet. Now there's just one problem. The lighting does not match my 3D environment at all. Yeah, this isn't working. I guess my lighting is gonna have to be artificial. So I placed some color gels in front of lights that I have, and my setup ended up looking like this. Then I filmed some more shots with this more cinematic lighting. Of course, it can always be adjusted later, but it already looks so much better. And the reason why I didn't use a green screen is because it's very hard to get good results with green screens when you got this kind of lighting going on. So what I'm gonna do instead is rotoscope it. There are a lot of good ways to rotoscope your footage these days, but what I'm gonna do is simply use a function in the editing app Premiere Beta, included in my Creative Cloud subscription, paid by my school. Yes, Mandalorians like me do go to school on this planet. Then what I did was simply export an image from my Blender scene to be my background. I made the image blurry because I knew my shot was gonna be a close-up and that the background wasn't very important. Then I put my background in After Effects and imported my rotoscoped footage as an image sequence in the composition. It looks very rough and kind of bad at the moment. Don't worry, we'll fix that later. And now for the main event, the TIE Fighter shot. So I got the TIE Fighter model from StarPack, which is a pack of a few Star Wars 3D models, and I found it on a website called Video Copilot. Then I repeated the same process we talked about earlier to apply the textures. Then I'm just gonna find the camera angle that I like in my scene, adjust the focal length, and well, I'm just gonna animate the TIE Fighter in a straight line on the Y-axis with a slight rotation to make it look a little more realistic, as if someone is actually flying it. Then, once again, I'm going to animate a light to follow the ship while it's flying so we can see it a little better. And I think this is pretty cool, because it seems like the ship is flying super low and that it's about to pass in this opening in the trees over there. And for the fifth and final shot, another close-up on my helmet where I seem kind of worried. It's going to be the same process as the third shot, but with different footage. Now, with these 5 shots rendered as image sequences, I will do some compositing in After Effects, which is basically the process of bringing my shots to life using some VFX assets. To find some good assets, I went on websites like productioncrate.com and Action VFX. In my shots, I placed some dust storm and dust wave assets. I also did a few tweaks. For example, I used masks to correct the rotoscoping in some frames. I added motion blur and cinematic camera lens blur. Oh yeah, and I added a solid that I feathered a lot to make the shots look better. So as you can see, compositing is very important. It makes a huge difference. After that, after a little bit of sound editing and a little bit of color grading, there we have it. Overall, you don't need millions of dollars to make cool CGI shots. If you're just getting started like me, you just need patience and to stay calm when you don't understand something. Anyways, thanks for sticking with me in the beginning of my journey, and see you next time. This is the way.